Well, good morning. So wonderful to see you all here this morning. As always, it's my great pleasure to welcome you to Sunday morning at Mountain Vista. We are so happy to see you here. I think most of you know me. I'm Chris Tackett. I am the piano player, music director, choir director, musical odd jobs fellow, and lead polar bear wrangler. And it's always my great pleasure to welcome you here on a Sunday morning. It's 2026. Y'all know what this is. Y'all know what to do with it before the service starts, right? Thank you. We have as always, we always have fun stuff planned for you, but among other things, you get to hear the choir this morning singing an absolutely beautiful song. I'll tell you more about that when we get to it. And beautiful message and beautiful stuff going on this morning. Once again, welcome. So happy to see you all.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to Mountain Vista Unitarian Universalist Congregation. My name is Samar Adi, Practice Associate today for Reverend Matthew Foncreri, who is MVU's settled minister. Wherever and whenever you are joining us, you are welcome. Let's do a quick wave to those joining us online and those who will be joining us later. We welcome you as well. As part of our tradition of gratitude, I'd like to thank the groups that come together and have a huge part in our Sunday experiences. Thank you to our hospitality and welcoming teams who welcomed all of you and will have refreshments after the service out in the patio. Thank you to our AV crew who, with all their magic, helps put this together, and also for those joining us who are watching later who get to experience this. I'd like to thank our staff, Chris Sackett, our music director, Stacy Sosa, who with her volunteers and her crew helped take care of the kiddos, our temporary congregational administrator, Kalia. Am I missing anyone? I think I've got all of them, right? Yeah. And if I'm missing anyone, thank you. Well, I kind of thanked him, but yes. As you use, rather than coming together to share a belief system, we come together from many areas of life, both secular and faith backgrounds, and we bring our individual selves and beliefs into this space. And instead of a creed, we share values, which we hold as deeply interconnected. Listed on the UUA website, interdependence. We honor the interdependent web of all existence and acknowledge our place in it. Pluralism. We are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, and theology. Justice. We work to be diverse, multicultural, beloved communities where all can feel welcome and can thrive. Transformation. We adapt to the changing world. Generosity. We cultivate a spirit of gratitude and hope. And equity. We declare that every person is inherently worthy and has the right to flourish with dignity, love, and compassion. Now, of course, naming our values doesn't mean we meet them perfectly. Being human means that we sometimes fall short. But our covenant calls us to keep returning to these values, to learn, to repair, to grow together. And so the future is feminism this month, a lens which we explore liberation and the sacred worth of every person. Now, when I think of feminism, I think of emotional intelligence and the labor work around it, and how that has historically been delegated to women. Now, there isn't any biological proof that women have different emotions than men, and in fact, the differences we see are overwhelmingly shaped by socialization and cultural expectations. Research in social psychology has shown that when men and women show the same emotional behavior, observers rate women as more emotional and men as having a reason. So this emotional woman, rational man trope runs through every aspect of Western society. And this has been used to justify excluding women from positions of power in politics and leadership for centuries. It shows up in who we think our default leader is. And it has real-world consequences, just in our medical system, to name one. Women are more likely to have their symptoms dismissed, their pain undertreated, the conditions that primarily impact women are underfunded for research. I've had so many women tell me how they've had to work on remaining as neutral as possible with their providers when trying to advocate for themselves or their children in order to receive care, that they get penalized for showing sadness, confusion, grief. And so from an early age, a lot of women are trained to notice emotional shifts, anticipate needs, soothe conflict, put their own needs aside to maintain relational harmony. And so doing this work requires talking about emotions more, which then gets mistaken for being more emotional. And of course, that emotional labor is undervalued, which is a whole nother conversation. Feminism reframes emotion not as a liability, but a power, a source of moral clarity, connection, wisdom. This is something actively taught now with emotion regulation skills, which center emotions as information. Emotions aren't good or bad, they just are. They're a sense, just like all of our other senses that give us feedback. Our task is to integrate that sense with everything else we know in order to make wise decisions. So feminism invites us as a community to ask, what emotions are welcomed? Whose emotions are welcomed? Whose emotions are pathologized? Who's expected to hold the emotional center of the group? And this is part of why we're spending this month with feminism, as a way of understanding what it means to be human. And as we explore these different perspectives together, we honor our shared humanity. Thank you. So. A reminder of what we share. by Pat Uribe Lichty. The chalice is a symbol of our faith. Like our faith, it is not magic, nor is it mysterious. We light it as a reminder of what we share as a community and who each of us is called to be. When we feel lost in a chaotic world, may the light of our chalice show us our path. When we are afraid of the times we live in, may the light of our chalice give us courage. When we despair at the injustice and cruelty around us, may the light of our chalice recall us to a faithful hope. Our chalice is a symbol of our commitment to each other and to ourselves. We light it today as a gathered community that we may understand more completely and act more boldly and hope more fiercely. Blessed be.
Emerge, center against domestic abuse. It's one of the pillars of our Tucson area community. It has been for 50 years. And today, this day and the rest of the Sundays, we have made them our woven basket partner. For half a century, Emerge Center Against Domestic Abuse has stood as an example of hope and resilience and transformation for survivors of violence in our community. What began as a grassroots movement in August 1975 with the Tucson Center for Women and Children has evolved into a comprehensive, survivor-centered organization dedicated to fostering healing, safety, and liberation for all of us. As they celebrate their 50th anniversary, they are reflecting on their journey, honoring the voices of survivors, and reaffirming their commitment to a future free of violence. They're grounded in love, and they're built for liberation. Those two things are at the heart of Emerge, and it's a deep and unwavering love for survivors. A love that sees, a love that believes, a love that uplifts. This love is the foundation of all of their work. It guides them to offer programs and services not only to provide immediate safety, but also pave the way for long-term healing and liberation. Over the years, their organization has expanded to meet the diverse needs of survivors, recognizing that safety is not just about fleeing violence. It's about building a future rooted in dignity, autonomy, and joy. It is our joy this month to have our woven basket out next to our wooden bowl. Both of these are for your generous donations, the basket for Emerge and the bowl for the ministries of our congregation. All that you give, everything that you can give, is gratefully received, and, as we have been learning, has been now held with new processes. So you can trust that what you give goes to the organizations that we honor each month.
When we come together, when we sing together, when we are just here together, and even when you watch the stream later on YouTube, there is magic in all of us being together. And I absolutely love that, and I love the fact that Jim Scott's beautiful song, Gather the Spirit, captures that feeling so well. It's number 347 in our gray hymnals, if you grabbed one of those on the way in the door. And if you didn't, don't worry. As always, the words will be on the screen. We rise when we sing, Gather the Spirit.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Joel. Thank you, all of you. I love that rockin' moment at the end where you stop and you just let us go.
You know, if everybody would come to choir on Wednesday night. 6:30.
Well, right now we're going to invite them to a time of contemplation, but 6:30 on Wednesdays for choir, yeah.
We take time to contemplate, too.
We invite you to a time of contemplation, of considering, and of pondering what's the clamoring for. Our Unitarian Universalist Association has a commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's not very popular right now, but we still keep that commitment. We don't do this as part of a cultural war. It arises from our most deeply held values. We declare that every person is inherently worthy and has the right to flourish with dignity, love, and compassion. And this not only supports each of us in our daily lives, but it challenges us and calls us to action.
Here at MVUU, we express much the same in our covenant with our own words. With love as our guide, we welcome the stranger. This too supports us, and it challenges us to question, why do we seek diversity, equity, and inclusion? What's our motivation? What are we clamoring for?
Perhaps it is guilt. Guilt over the injustices of racism, heterosexism, classism. A commitment to diversity would make me feel better, that is, less guilty.
What's the clamoring for?
Perhaps it is a sense of responsibility. A sense of responsibility to deal with my prejudices and somehow participate in bringing greater justice. A commitment to diversity would hold us responsible and make us do the right thing.
What's the clamoring for?
Perhaps it is that nagging call to seek wholeness. Given the partiality of all points of view, given the diversity of truth, given our calling to live our lives religiously, given these, a commitment to diversity is nothing less than honoring the call to seek wholeness in my life, in our collective lives. African-American feminist author, teacher, Bell Hooks asks the question this way: what is all this clamoring after difference? What the clamoring for?
All the clamoring is about seeking wholeness, Bell Hooks concludes. Guilt leads to angry denial and inaction. Responsibility leads to grudging good works. The call to seek wholeness has room for acknowledging feelings of guilt and anger and frustration, room for accepting appropriate responsibility, and plenty of room for moving toward personal and communal transformation.
What the clamoring is for.
All the clamoring is for each person, each perspective, each truth to be granted sufficient respect, so that we truly listen to those ideas and allow ourselves to be truly challenged by them.
What the clamoring is for.
All the clamoring is for us to recognize that our lives are intertwined, so intertwined that each is accountable to the other. Each particular story, truth calls us to accountability, calls me to accountability for my life, my limits, my individual, and our collective transformation.
What the clamoring's for.
All the clamoring is for truth. I need you who you are, the experiences and perspectives you bring, so that I may truly know truth beyond my partial truth.
What the clamoring is for.
All the clamoring is for justice. We need each other, and what we can all do together for justice. May it be so as we choose it to be.
I invite you now to a time of meditation, of breath, and of rest, and of being held in community. if you will, focus on our flaming chalice, the symbol of our faith, the flame of our collective spirit, center of our congregation. And breathe. Breathe in as your body requires, and out a little more slowly. For when we feel lost in a chaotic world, we make a place to breathe. And rest. Rest your body in the chair you're sitting in. Rest your spirit. When the unrest of the world, when the inner despair takes hold, we hold one another in an embrace that only community can give, so that we might rest. We are here to heal one another. It's a tall order as injustice rises and cruelty and brutality surround us. When the brokenness of the world and the suffering touches the brokenness in our own lives. Come here. Be embraced. Be held. We will be together for as long as it takes. We will take action together for as long as it takes. We will sing and we will dance and we will cry for as long as it takes. Healing the brokenness in our lives and in the world. Resting. Breathing. May it be so.
In about 2004, Ruth Moody, who along with her sister Marceline and another childhood friend, had a group called the Waylon Jennies. About 2004, Ruth wrote a beautiful song called One Voice. And about that time, I heard it when they sang it on a certain radio show out of Minnesota. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Most of you know what I'm talking about. And I heard it on that show and thought, wow, that is great. And what a perfect metaphor for so much. Not knowing any better, I sent an email to Ruth Moody and said, hey, is there a choral arrangement of that? She said, no, there isn't. And I said, I have a choir that would be that would love to sing it. And she said, well, why don't you write an arrangement then? And she sent me her original lead sheet, a copy of her original lead sheet. And I wrote an arrangement, and I sent it back to her, and she said, that's nice. Could you change this and maybe this, and how about that? I'm like, sure, no problem. That's wonderful. She wrote the song, after all. And I sent it back to her, and she says, that's very nice. And I sang it with my choir, and I've sung it with a number of different choirs since then. And not too long ago, I was searching through YouTube trying to find good recordings of it to pass around to teach the choirs I was founding. And I found that that one little arrangement has gone around the world. It's been sung by most of the service choirs, military service choirs, including one gorgeous recording with the Navy choir and an orchestra. I didn't do the orchestra part, but I did the choir part, and they sang it beautifully. And we would so like to sing it for you this morning. I'm also pausing here for a moment so that you can look at these beautiful people up here behind me. Aren't they wonderful? Ruth Moody's and the Waylon Jennys, one voice, with our soloists Elizabeth, Monica, and Melody. And you too, while we're at it. Now.
This is the sound of one voice, one spirit, one voice, the sound of one who makes our choice. This is the sound of one voice. This is the sound of one voice. This is the sound of voices too, the sound of me singing with you, helping each other to make it through. This is the sound of voices too. This is the sound of voices too. This is the sound of voices three, singing together in harmony, surrendering to the mystery. This is the sound of voices three. This is the sound of voices three.
Stand on that side. Okay. Just switch sides. We gather as individuals, and we gather as one.
We navigate this paradox with covenant, our promise to one another that we will try again and again and again to hold our relationships as sacred.
Each week we ritualize this with elements of fire and of water and earth and air. These symbols are not magic nor mysterious. They are the reality of our trust in each other and our faith in this community.
The fire of our chalice reminds us of what we share as a community and of who each of us is called to be. The water we have collected, the ebb and flow of our lives, and congregational life. Stones of the earth, ready to hold each grief and joy, fear and trust, anger and passion for justice, all that we don't know and doubt, and the space to create something new. Stones dropped into the water of this congregation to be engaged, loved, transformed. And the breath of air in our deep sighs in silence. And the power behind each spoken word. I have 3 things to report today. The first joy from our OWL team, our whole lives. Several weeks ago, a panel of folks, several from MVU, went and answered questions about the journey for identity for 7th to 9th graders. A parent reached out after and thanked us for what we do and how impactful our OWL program is. And she is excited to now have her kid come join us. So, just great. The next joy is from Sherry Desmond May. I'm very moved by being part of the Singing Resistance Tucson. I am often moved to tears. My spirit is uplifted, and I have renewed hope that the moral arc of the universe will bend toward justice eventually. Come join us, she says. And also, please send good thoughts and prayers to the family of Warren and Theda Ellis as their son Keith is facing a very serious illness. Our thoughts and prayers are with you. And we add stones for all that is not spoken, but deeply held in our hearts. This is Mountain Vista Unitarian Universalist Congregation.
Leading us through the challenges and changes in our individual lives is our Pastoral Care Committee. We are listening when you have a joy or a sorrow to share, and we are leading our congregation in the comfort and the care in response. Leading us through the challenges and changes of our congregational life is our board of directors. They are continuing to listen and to learn about how you are feeling and what you are thinking about the financial misconduct that occurred here at Mountain Vista last year. There is a letter out in our foyer if you are wondering what I'm talking about. This, too, is Mountain Vista Unitarian Universalist Congregation.
We are fire, water, earth, and air. We are celebration and care. We are listening and leading. We are individuals in a united faith community. May it be so in all that we do.
Hymn number 130, O Liberating Rose. the ideas of liberation, and of course roses. 1:30 in the gray hymnal, also on the screen. Please rise and sing with us.
I didn't understand feminism. I couldn't comprehend it until it taught me to laugh at injustice. Please go to that slide. A woman without a man is like a fish without a bicycle. It's an anonymous quote originating in 1975 in an Australian newspaper. Yeah, let it sink in. You see, I believed it was some binary struggle, a fight for equality between women and men, until it taught me the joy of resistance. The 1998 advertisement from the Guerrilla Girls, the conscience of the art world, asks, do women have to get naked to get into the Met Museum? At that time, less than 5% of the artists in the modern art sections are women, but 85% of the nudes are female. I thought feminism was in the past until it taught me that through love, feminism is the future. The moment we choose to love, we move towards freedom. Feminist essayist and academic bell hooks. You may know this, but the word feminism came into use in the 1840s during the early days of the American suffragist movement. At that time, feminists were mocked for seeking the right to vote simply to be like men. But many, like Universalist Frances Dana Parker Gage, a well and much known and in-demand orator of the time, responded with reason and impassioned calls for justice and equality. In solidarity with slave women, she would quote and amplify the words of Sojourner Truth, "If I am responsible for the deeds done in my body, the same as white male citizen is, I have a right to all the rights that he has to help him through the world." Inventor Rose O'Neal, who created the Cupid doll and others, simply added some humor to all of that. Wait, let's not go away from that. Give mother the vote. We need it. Votes for our mothers, our food, our health, our play, our homes, our schools, our work are ruled by men's votes. Isn't it a funny thing that father cannot see why mother ought to have a vote on how these things should be? Think it over. With that focus on winning women's right to vote, there was always an awareness from the start that couldn't be achieved without winning the rights for enslaved and other disenfranchised people. For Unitarians and Universalists like Susan B. Anthony, Frances Ellen Watkins Harper, and Mary Livermore, abolishing slavery, workplace safety, quality education and health care, and international peace were all tied in together. They were intertwined with suffrage. And the prevailing argument that did eventually win the vote for women in the United States in 1920 was that we're equal, not because women wanted to become men, but simply because they were human beings. It was a little radical at the time. Yet this became a significant thread within the growing feminist movement. And as time passed, and things changed, and people adapted to those changes in society, other rights were fought for. The right to a divorce, the right to an abortion, simply the right to speak and be heard as a human being. It was this strong, continual thread that spoke about liberation for everyone. And as I've already mentioned, I grew up unaware of any of this. I guess if I had known about this history, if I'd even known the word feminist, I probably would have believed that I lived in a post-feminist period. As a white, middle-class boy growing up here in Tucson, I was privileged to believe that there was equality in my family, at my school, in my church. I mean, my mom, my teachers and principal, my ministers were women. And they taught me to respect everyone equally. And so I believed that's how the world was. And it was a little mind-blowing when I realized that wasn't true. I wasn't really watching the TV. It was the CBS NewsHour in 1982 when I overheard, just in the background, that the extension for the Equal Rights of Amendment had expired. That since 1921, there had been an attempt to amend our Constitution so that the words, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal," were more metaphorical than literal. They had never meant to include women. And that since 1776, women had not been equal in this country. I was hopping mad. And I still am. That my mother, that Mrs. McDonald, Mrs. Carrasco, Reverend Benedict, and Reverend Kirk Langstrom, who had taught me what equality was all about, were not and are not today treated equally here in our country. And it's taken me a while for me to shift that anger into a passion for justice. Feminism for me has meant I had to unlearn a lot about what I believe to be true about equality and equity here in America. And that, I will tell you firsthand, is hard work. And it's uncomfortable. Because I had to move beyond what I believed was true. I thought the facts were right in front of me. What I believed was safe for me. What I came to realize that my perspective was not just unhelpful to the equality of women in our country, but it was hurtful. I had to learn and listen and laugh with and love feminists of all genders and ethnicities and backgrounds and faiths until the past struggles for equality became the daily struggles of life now. And I am still listening and learning and laughing and loving. It's hard work, but it's hard work filled with joy. Filled with joy. For example, I didn't know until a week ago that Dr. Sharon Welsh, the author of The Feminist Ethic of Risk, was a Unitarian Universalist. I've been reading her book for years. I preached on it several different times. A book that talks about learning from feminists and our history of feminism. How they kept on keeping on through partial successes and limited failures. She teaches that to live into feminism today requires, quote, the courage and the humor of community. A community that continues to learn to love, to acknowledge our capacity to harm, and from that acknowledgement to find the balm for the journey, presence, and the witness to the struggles and the joys of life. It's how we discover liberation. Liberation not just for a few, but liberation for us all.
The reading Liberation is a Process by Emily M. Towns from the book Ethics as an Art of Doing the Work Our Souls Must Have. Liberation and freedom are not the same. Liberation is a process. Freedom is a temporary state of being. It is more of an event we point towards, work for, and hope for. It is the hope of freedom that drives liberation. Liberation is the product of freedom. Liberation is the process of struggle with ourselves and with each other that begets the transformation for all of us to our full humanity. Through liberation, freedom may be made manifest, but that freedom is not a permanent state of being. When we are made whole, we are asked to give of that wholeness. Liberation is dynamic, it never ends.
Later this month, on March 28th, Mountain Vista has an opportunity to join in that struggle for liberation. The third No Kings public action will take place across America, and it is being planned to be the largest protest in our nation's history. A protest and a demand for democracy. As you already know, it's a type of action that refuses an authoritarian administration, its policies and practices, its abuse and its cruelty and its violence. Now, for some people, the No Kings, there have been two already, have been the first time that they have stepped out and attended a public action of protest. Awesome. If you've ever been to one of the two that have happened, you know that they are powerful, nonviolent, impassioned protests, and they are a hell of a lot of fun. I'm serious. I have never been to anything like this. Now, here in our corner of the world, the local organizers for the Oro Valley No Kings event are planning an ambitious 8 miles of action along Oracle Road. They've selected 6 intersections stretching from Oro Valley to Tucson Mall to be the site of rising voices for justice and humanity and for healing. And Mountain Vista has been invited to co-host the Faith and Conscience intersection at Oracle and Orange Grove. And since I've been your minister, I'm good with that. Since I've been your minister, this is the first time that we've been sought out. We've been invited to bring our faith into action as a co-leader in our community. And so this is an opportunity for us to level up in our activism. Leveling up is what the call is going out to right now in every direction for people who love democracy and who would struggle and fight against authoritarianism. If you haven't heard that call to level up, then we'll get you connected. Many of us have already been present at the last 2 No Kings actions. And so if you haven't, and this is your time to step into it, we will show you how. And many have been consistently attending other actions and protests and events across the region, and I think we have some photos of us doing that. There we are. In response to the invitation to co-host many of these individuals, our MVUU actionists have agreed to level up and to do more. Tom Bunch and Vince Pulowski have agreed to do promotion. Conrad Paul has agreed to gather and help organize 10 safety monitors. Samar Adi and Jerry Leggett are heading up our water station. And Tom Bunch is seeking individuals to be our first aid medics and responders. These are just simply the basics of our co-hosting. And yet I'm extraordinarily grateful that when these folks stepped up and said they would do this, then we could say yes to the invitation to co-host. So thank you. Thank you for stepping up and helping MVU do the same. What we're seeing is that MVUU is starting to reimagine who we are in our local community, to redefine our role and our responsibility out beyond our walls. And this work, well, it needs all of you. We need you to ask, what can I do? And then follow the answers that this group of leaders, those who I've named, have stepped forward, what they say what we need to do. So if you know these folks, you can text or call them directly. But if not, you can go out to our information connection station after the service on our patio and sign up for an area that interests you. Because there's not just interest, but there's training. There's guidance. There's community doing this together. To be clear, MVUU is leveling up not because we are seeking to feel better. This is not out of guilt. And it's not just to grudgingly do good works. It's because our chosen mission and purpose as Mountain Vista Unitarian Universalists is to engage, to love, to transform. It's to engage our community broadly, to listen and laugh and to celebrate and learn with them so that we can love the hell out of the world. And this is transformative, not because it directs us in ways that we can expect. We didn't know we were going to be invited to do this. But it does allow us to let love and the moment transform us toward greater wholeness. And that's exactly what Dr. Sharon Welsh teaches. Summer read it to us. It's a need to keep on keeping on in the face of limited successes and partial defeats. It's a lesson to be learned from the feminist movement and Unitarian Universalist involvement in it throughout its history. She writes, "The ethic of risk is characterized by three elements, each of which is essential to maintain resistance in the face of overwhelming odds. A redefinition of responsible action, a grounding in community, and strategic risk-taking." That's what we've been invited to do. That's what we've said yes to do. That's what our feminist ancestors have called us to do. And this is Mountain Vista Unitarian Universalist Congregation today. We've been working on wholeness. A wholeness that holds the sacred and the mundane. A wholeness that holds all of our joys and our sorrows, our fear and our trust, our anger and our passion for justice, our individual powerlessness, and the empowerment to come together as a secular faith community and be whole and be holy. As Dr. Emily Towns has told us, when we are made whole, we are asked to give of the wholeness. And so we're being called upon to give. To give of what we cherish here in Mountain Vista. To give of ourselves individually, to give of ourselves as a community. The path of liberation. In the face of overwhelming odds, our path is to engage and love and transform, and then rinse and repeat again and again and again. This is our way. With our Unitarian Universalist faith as we practice it here, that liberation is dynamic, it never ends. And so if you're interested in joining in No Kings on March 28th as a protester for democracy, for the first time, we'll show you how. If you're interested in helping our organizing as co-hosts for Faith and Conscience Corners, then please connect with our MVUU leaders. If you're simply interested in engaging and loving and transforming towards an ever greater wholeness in this world, a liberty for all, then bring your voice, your one true voice, so that we can sing together with a whole and holy new voice. May it be so, as each of us and all of us choose to do this together.
In 1911, James Oppenheim published a poem that's come to be known as Bread and Roses, as we marching. The idea being that particularly in the fight for women's suffrage, in the fight for unionization and the rights to unionization, it's not enough to merely have the things that sustain life, but we also need the things that make life worth living. Bread, yes, but the roses of art, of dignified working conditions, the things that make life worth living. Let's stand and sing it together Number 109 in the gray hymnal, 109 in the gray hymnal, and as always, on the screen.
As we come marching, marching in the beauty of the day,
In my copious free time, thank you, I've been making my way through Howard Zinn's People's History of the United States. For those of you who might not be familiar with the book, each chapter is focused on a period of our country's history that centers the lived realities of people who were significantly impacted. And so those histories include the experiences of indigenous populations, of slaves, of Mexicans, of women, of African Americans, of immigrants through the different waves of immigrations that were happening, of the working class, of poor whites. Liberation is a process. On one hand, while it's been really heartbreaking to hear some of those stories, it really highlights how far we've come. It also highlights for me the divisiveness that has stopped some of those movements from happening, that it becomes poor working class folks against women, or the poor whites versus the African American slaves of the time. And so it really, one of the things that I've really taken away so far from it has that when we join together for shared liberation, we can do so much more. And so liberation is a process. The future is on its way, and we are engaging, loving, and transforming it. So, American teenager. So, media coverage tends to sensationalize the fight over how trans kids should be allowed to live. But what is extremely rare are the voices of the people at the heart of this debate, transgender and gender nonconforming kids themselves. For their groundbreaking new book, journalist Nico Lang spent a year traveling the country to document the lives of transgender, non-binary, and gender-fluid teens and their families. Nico reached out to MVU this week and invited us to join in a reading over at Rincon United Church of Christ on March 14th at 3 p.m. So there's more information available in upcoming newsletters, but also I think there's a QR code that will be embedded in the announcement in the newsletter, so it's not here right now. And so.
Chris and I have been participating in a project called Faith 250, an interfaith journey. It's been led by Reverend Malcolm over at Kolomi Synagogue. What did I just say? Thank you. Rabbi, yeah. There's a big difference. There is. He has been bringing us together, clergy from around the town and our other religious leaders, to begin the process of examining what is it to be people of faith when we celebrate on July 4th, 250 years of the Declaration of Independence. We are ready now to open this up to our congregations. And so if you are interested, we want to invite you to join us on this date, to use a registration which is going to also be in our upcoming newsletter, so that you can come and participate, to bring your voice, to bring Mountain Vista's voice, but also to bring a multi-faith voice to our area as we plan a major celebration for the upcoming July 4th, 2026.
Releasing the Flame. Our Calling in the World by Reverend Dr. Rebecca Savage. We have come to the end of our service, but not our calling in the world. We close our time together with a humble reminder that justice and equity are our spiritual practices to embrace. Each day, every day, we are blessed to be the embodiment of what is possible when justice and equity ground us in all that we do. May we go forth with the light and warmth of our chalice in our hearts until we are together again. Blessed be.
In body or in spirit, and take the hand of those around you. This is Mountain Vista Unitarian Universalist congregation. It is a gathering of many singular voices, and it is one voice. We are being called to take our voice individually and collectively into the world. Go knowing you do not go together. Go knowing that your voice is being heard. Go knowing that our voice is beginning to sing together a brand new song. Go in peace.
And while you are standing there holding hands, what else can we do?